Funny thing is that today my age group winner finished 11th.
11th, yeah.
And I looked at the footage a bit, and he was not even in front in first few kilometers. He overtook me like in third kilometer maybe. Today it was projected to be raining. 15 minutes before the start, it started raining. First 10 minutes or so was a mess because it was so muddy. In some areas things were quite wet, literally. I cleaned the camera lens and then 2 seconds later it's already covered of mud, but thankfully it was only in the beginning of the race. There were some rainfalls in some sections of the race course, minor ones, so that's good, but the tire was a good choice. Because I'm sissy, I purchased spare tire. It's Pirelli's XCH, which potentially before stage 2 I will add to the rear, because my current Pirelli XCRC on the rear is a bit worn and it's projected to be raining.
Did you find that many people didn't show up, or because do you remember in Costa Blanca on the final stage, like
it's hard to tell because main website is down. It's not working currently. I don't think so that a lot of people didn't show up. In this area, I believe that it's very casual to have wet conditions, so we don't mind. While in Costa Blanca, normally people would expect it dry, bone dry.
And if you look at also your result from today, so what, you were like 110th yesterday, is that right?
Yeah, 109th. Somehow one person disappeared.
And today you were 91st?
Yeah.
And you were 21st in the category, and I think yesterday 24th?
Fourth, yeah.
You were 20% from the winner, so you were only 20% slower than the winner today, so you were 25% slower than the winner yesterday. So that's already a good chunk closer to the front.
But it's like 35 minutes.
Yeah, but it's the percentage, isn't it? You've reduced the percentage, so relatively you've gone quicker.
What have you noticed from this?
I think looking at the results, it was a better ride. You can see the start, it was another good start. So again, you were only you got to the top of that climb and you were within a couple of minutes of the guys that finished 4th and 5th, I think, in your age group. Where you lost the most time was between like 30 or 20 miles, 30 kilometers and sort of 45 kilometers, this like middle third. You actually, all this draggy bit that you were worried about yesterday, you actually held. You held the same rate of loss. But then it was like, once you get over it, then you started to lose a bit more time. But then once you got to the final climb, which is what we talked about, you actually you hardly lost any time from there.
I was there extremely slow. Literally, I haven't looked at the power, but it felt like in some cases that I might even stop.
It was about 300 watts.
But it was quite hard to maintain even those.
Yeah, it might have felt slow, but look, you're not losing loads of time to those guys.
To those two, yeah, but
compared to
compared...
those two, you're not losing much time. To the winner, yeah, you lose the most time on that climb. You can see that you use a lot of time. But then he's probably attacked on that climb and ridden away from
like
the
you
group
said
that he was in. So I think overall it was a better performance than yesterday. Just like, obviously I wasn't there, I didn't see what happened, but just looking at data, to me it looks better than yesterday.
Completely different than what it felt like. I would say 2/3 of the first climb was fine, but then I was no longer able to keep up with the group and I let them go. I've been trying to stay in the group, which was going a bit too fast for me. So I was like struggling, but still trying to beat them. And there was one guy at the end of the group who few times missed the moment when the group started to accelerate. He started to pedal a bit late and I also missed that. And then, he opens the gap and the gap opens from his wheel, and then I have to work twice as hard to keep that group together with them. So then I started to look a bit aside in order to see what others are doing rather than seeing what he's doing. And it kind of worked. It's harder to be at the end of a group. So I wanted to be somewhere in between. So even if I'm not able to continue with the front guys, others will drag me to the group anyways. That was my general idea. So imagine, I'm trying to go into the middle of a group. Well, there was a gap. I'm like riding aside and slowly trying to squeeze in, while that guy, which I mentioned, came around aside me and pushed me with a hand. Like he took me to the side here and pushed me like this, said something. Of course I didn't understand because it was Spanish. And I'm like, I couldn't believe it. Like, I can't say that there was a huge gap. I was just been trying to squeeze in, and normally people allowed to do that. Well, because I mean, again, we are riding in second 50 of the overall GC. You know, probably it would have been smart to just let it off a bit and go back to the group, but I've been riding aside and wasting my energy, and then it was like power shut off. Probably it was a bit of mental as well.
Yeah.
And then a bit steeper climb started, and I just let them go because it was too much for me.
But did that give you space then to descend into? Did you catch them on the descent?
That's a good question, because we talked that if I see someone in front, either I try to overtake them or leave the space, right? So there was one guy who potentially I saw as an obstacle, but he was pushing on that last bit quite hard, and I decided that I won't try to overtake him. My tempo and maybe even faster sometimes, maybe, because you can see what other is doing, and if he makes a mistake while we still had a gap between each other, I can make corrections and avoid those mistakes. So that was kind of good thing, I guess.
You don't really lose any time, even to the winner. You don't really lose much time.
Yeah, it was like
It's pretty flat.
Yeah, but there was.
You've clearly gone down the descent at a very similar pace to everyone else.
I knew that there is a stream going on. Potentially people won't ride through it, because if ours went through it already, it will be muddy and you can't see whether there are stones or whatever. But because I did a recon, I knew exactly where to go. So I'm like still staying on the bike, stationary, waiting while others walked by. And a woman leader, Janica Loiv, comes from behind, and I don't know, she was few people behind me, and she's like paso, paso, paso. But the fact is, we're all standing in the same queue. What's paso? I mean, that kind of surprised me. But yeah, that's what leader jersey gives. I allowed her as well to go, and I know that in front is that river, and she almost fell into the water or whatever. So, and then there was impossible climb. I did in the recons that impossible climb. Well, I filmed it, and I pretty much made it to the top during recon. But you know, it's different thing when you come with low heart rate, pretty much rested, and no one even tried that. Well, everyone just went off the bike and pushed through.
It's like literally as you come off the descent.
Yeah, exactly that. So it was funny that first no one even tried to. Other, they even made comments like, "What the hell?"
Looking at this, I would say the leaders did ride up it.
Yeah, I mean, it was double. It was double for sure.
I would say the guys we're looking at here who finished 4th and 5th in your age group didn't, because it's like
similar crawling speed.
I'm pretty much sure. Or maybe the impossible climbs prepared me to what's possible.
And how was the middle bit? So once you got, because like I say here, this part you don't really lose a huge amount of time.
Yeah,
But
you
then
know,
once you end up
once we
stop
crossed,
going up and start coming back down, you start losing quite a lot of time.
yeah, and you see there is a road between Filol. Moments before that, I didn't felt right, and then
Yeah.
I didn't felt right. I don't know, probably up to that lake or somewhere around there. So it was like
Yeah.
dark moment for me. It was very hard.
And what made you change? And what changed that? Did you manage to eat something, drink something?
Kind of tried to eat. It seemed like enough, but I think I underfueled. I eat 40 grams of carbohydrates,
160.
2 power bars with caffeine, which is 25 grams, so another 50. And then the lifesaver of today was those.
Yeah. And there's caffeine in them.
Yeah, 80. I bought those here, and it was again bad call. I used those in the past, and they just don't work for me. I don't know. Did you ever notice that some gels, even though it's kind of same type of carbohydrates, just don't work the way ours do? Have you noticed that or not?
Don't think so.
Maybe it's mental. Maybe it's because cis tastes like vomit. I don't know.
Yeah, they don't taste nice.
But on the contrary, when I eat those, I mean, it was like eyes opening. Those two, this is absolutely, well, it's hydro, means that you don't even need to consume any water after it, so it's very waterish. Cis is also like, it doesn't have too much texture. I think in a way that maybe that does not trick my mind good enough.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's just assumption, which might be wrong or right, but it just feels that way.
I definitely have gels that I feel like do more than others.
So maybe it's not my superstitious.
But yeah, I don't know if it is true or not, but yeah. I mean, so have you got more of those sweets, the jellies for tomorrow?
But you know what's bad with them? It's very hard to chew them because they are like literally gel. Ideally, it's the best to add it into the mouth before descending of some sort. But you know, it's not always very easy to find that right moment. And actually, to add one bit about today, woman second place winner, Figueras, catched me at some point, and we've been riding together for a while. And I missed the meal at some point. I haven't eaten for a while, and I'm still somewhere in the single track climbing. I better let her go, moved aside, then took a gel, consumed it, drink it, because I knew that if I'm not going to do it now, probably I might regret at some point in the future. So in the past, I was looking at the times, like 20-30 minutes. I always consumed something. Now kind of try to consume whenever I have a moment.
Yeah.
And in these type of races, you don't necessarily get that moment. And then when you are not following the time and you are only doing that based on the feeling, sometimes that feeling is, like you said, already too late. Then I'm losing the most time to others is when we finish descending and we start to climb. There is a punchy steep climb on the gravel roads. Everyone goes for me like this.
Yeah.
So my assumption, probably I don't rest enough on descents.
Yeah.
And then I'm just not able to go, well, I might, but I don't feel like it. What's your take in such situation?
I would say for me that was like something I had to learn as well when coming into mountain biking from road racing. Sometimes, maybe when you're in the group more and you kind of come off a descent and you carry speed into something going up, you're not always sprinting up it. You end up carrying speed, but especially if you're following someone. Mm-hmm. I did have to learn, okay, mountain biking, especially not so much for marathon racing, but definitely when you're racing Olympic XC, then every single time it's anything uphill, like the good guys are just sprinting. And then, yeah, like you say, they descend. But they don't always sprint all the way to the top. It's just like they're just trying to carry speed up. So they'll like just really hit the bottom really hard. And then maybe by the time they get to the top, they've like eased off, or they're kind of
I don't know,
the
but
rhythm.
especially today, I felt it. Well, there might be also the case that I've been a bit more up. I haven't compared the times, but in the first checkpoint, I was like significantly more up. It was like top 50 maybe. There were a lot more guys which finished above me, below me in the first checkpoint, because my time was 58, and there are a lot of guys who were slower in that until that first checkpoint. So that might be the case, that there were just faster guys aside. But today it was a bit devastating that if someone catches me, they just goes by, and that's pretty much the last time I'm seeing them. Yeah, maybe not humans or whatever. I mean, you would expect that at least someone will get tired because it felt like I'm the only one who's tired, you know?
Yeah, it's sort of the middle sector is where you lost time.
Yeah, but take a look on the left. Is that...
Yeah, that's,
uh-huh.
yeah, 58. This guy's here doing like an hour. Lots of 59s above you here.
Yeah, exactly.
An hour, still loads of 59s.
Yeah, so maybe top
Now it's left.
60 something.
Yeah.
Top 70. 20 plus people just passed me like nothing.
But again, that's what you see here when you look at the flyby. You lose the most time in this sector here. But if what you're saying is, oh yeah, as you're coming off the descents and the guys are like sprinting up these little climbs.
Yeah, exactly, that's what happened.
It's kind of, I don't know if these guys are racing, you know, if they're racing cross-country races a lot, and that's how they're, you know, they're conditioned. That's their engine is like in training to do that sort of effort a lot, and you haven't been. You kind of just got to change the way you train a bit, I guess, and do more hard efforts up the climbs.
Very hard to understand where they got that power from, because the descent was not easy, you know. It's not like going gravel road. It was technical, with ups and downs, blah blah blah. As soon as they come through the single track, they are just like, phew, and that's the last time you're seeing. I
They
can
could
tell
also
you
be
that.
pacing themselves earlier, right? If you're going really hard to start,
Yeah.
and then you're kind of ending up going backwards, whereas maybe they're like pacing themselves much more, so they have energy left at the end.
That's a very good point. Maybe we should start thinking about how stage 3 should be approached.
Yeah, we can look at that. But I think you paced it in the right way. I think going hard at the start is definitely the way to do it, because you know you're not getting caught behind people early, and also I think you know this is the bit where you, as a bigger guy, are going to lose more time
If you go slower.
if you're going slower. So I still think you're going to end up losing time later on anyway. So you may as well reduce the amount of time you lost at the beginning.
Yeah, but you know, it would be
I think you rode it the right way.
it would be so cool to get those power stores at the end of the stage rather than just die somewhere in the middle.
Well, it'll come. So like the more, see, this is the second race of the year, right? The second stage race of the year. So if you can go home and then start adding, you know, a level of kind of intensity to your training, make sure you're doing some long rides, then you'll keep the form that, you know, you'll build endurance throughout the week here, and then you just like build on it when you go home for whatever the next race is.
Yeah, that's actually quite true as well, that the first race was in the end of January, and then it was nothing. Like it was 3 months window. So that, well, I can't say that it's nothing. I've been still riding, but considering the surgery as well, there was some time off, and then pretty much I guess that's how it feels when you are coming from the sofa.
No, well, no. So if you look at your numbers from January, like the power that you're doing for those stages in Costa Blanca
Yeah.
and the power you're doing here is very similar. This is stage 3, so it's much shorter, 33k. Is this climb part of the climb you've already done?
I think not, because this course is in opposite direction, so it goes clockwise, and
It's not this climb, it's not this bit here.
that can be it, but in opposite direction.
Yeah. And this bit is stage 1, but backwards. And so what, do you think it will take an hour and a half?
I guess a bit more.
Under 2 hours, though.
For sure, under 2 hours, no doubt. 1:45, something like that, I would say, because there are quite flat sections. Well, they are not exactly flat, but you can carry speed there. But still, it's only almost 600 meters of elevation. So,
And this bit here, this bit looks tough.
yeah, it is.
And that'd be a good opportunity. You can practice.
Sprinting out of a single track.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
You could try, like, I don't know, if you go, take it a bit easier on the descent, see if you can recover a bit coming down so that you can hit the climb a bit harder.
But you know what's interesting? That I actually don't feel like I'm busted when I'm in the single track. But when I come from the single track, the legs are like,
Yeah.
So
That
maybe
also
that's
could be
also,
because you've not done loads of volume since the last race,
maybe, I don't know.
and you're just carrying fatigue. Now it's been 2 days, 1 day, and you also always seem to go whenever you go away, like you've done like. You didn't exactly ease into the race. You go away and you just start riding loads. If I was doing it, then at least like for that 3 or 4 days before stage 1, I'd be doing very little.
I kind of could haven't checked the courses, but then I would go into those blindly, and instead I decided to check the courses, and that's now my legs say that good luck.
Although I think I would rather see the course and be a bit tired than
Yeah,
not
that's
see the course.
That's what I also think. But for example, today there was one very steep section down where even if you brake both front and rear, the bike just don't stop. And
Yeah.
there was a drop of stones there, which I knew that if there are people, I'm for certain not doing that. And no one been doing that neither. And I'm like trying to brake instead of not hitting the guy in front, and the bike just don't stop. It just skids.
And it's wet.
In that area, it was dry. When
Okay,
the dust are dry, it's just extremely slippery. So somehow
Maybe
I
if it had
stopped.
rained, you would have slowed down a bit.
Well, hopefully it didn't rain, because if it were raining for a whole race, 4 hours wouldn't be enough, I guess.
So what do you think about tomorrow? I think it's a bit like you could see 25k as your finish line.
Yeah, like it was today 50, and it wasn't. It was like another half an hour of suffering. But anyways, I guess nothing changes much. I will go full gas from the start. Well, 95%.
Are you getting gridded at the starts?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
actually today was one funny thing. Announcer says that start in 15 seconds. 15. And then he blows the whistle. Like after 3 seconds maybe. So what's your suggestion, and let's make a wrap. How we should approach this?
I think, again, like, maybe don't go hard on this first bit because it looks quite steep, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you can let yourself drop back a bit rather than blowing up completely, and seeing if you can save, because I think this part of this course will be the toughest part of the course.
Yeah.
And so as long as you're like, I think you need to be feeling strong going into that so you can really attack it and ride hard. Whereas so far, every stage, you're like, the peak power has come in the first 40 minutes.
Yeah.
and then you've lost like at least, I mean, 30 to 50 watts into the second and third 40 minutes.
Yeah, it's also interesting to try something else rather than always stepping on the same rake and then getting hit into your face.
So I think you want to see this part of the course, this climb, being the bit where you've got the most power for the day. I would always consider, okay, right, as I go over this, I'm going to get to recover coming down there. Obviously, it's going to be harder than it looks on paper, and you're going to have to push a bit, but like, it doesn't matter if you're sort of blowing coming down there. Also, if you know it's coming, then you can eat those gummies like coming into it. As long as you're like, okay, I'm well fueled going over the top, I might be tired, but if you can't, if the descents are too technical to take anything on, keep your level as it is, or even push that little bit harder, you'll get another good jump, like another 10 places in the standings.
What's your estimate time for the winner?
An hour and 20 minutes. For you, that's like an hour and 35 minutes.
Yeah.
So that'd be 10%. So 20% would be an hour and 45.
Sounds doable.
Fuel well tonight, eat big dinner, big breakfast, lots of sleep. Like I said the other day, stage 1, everyone's super fresh, super keen, goes really hard. Stage 2, people are a bit more tired. Sort of, like, yes, the top 10 are still on it. They're still really fast, but that middle part of the race slows down. Guys start fatiguing. And I think tomorrow you'll see it again, like people fatigued even more.
Probably it's the first race where I'm participating where everyone looks so fast. Not necessarily visually when you look at them in the gate, but when the whistle is blown, they are extremely fast. Of course, Spain is a big country. There are only few familiar faces, which I know from other races I've been participating in. Others are, well, for me unknown because I'm unknown here as well, but I hardly envision how much strong guys are there in general who are just not attending the race.
But you say it's a big race, right? So I think you see there's probably a lot of good amateurs at the race.
At the same time, simultaneously in Ibiza, there is Volcat Ibiza MTB happening right now in same days, 3 days stage race. So there are 1,000 participants there. So you can imagine that people separate to different races even on the same weekend.
But you did that last year, right?
Yeah.
And you said you did well.
I did extremely well.
Yeah.
I've been riding in pairs with Andreas. So he been squeezing 105% out of me